Of streetlights on Griffin Drive. Who's gonna,
I'll motion to approve those lights on Griffin
I'm
Drive.
sorry, you what?
I'll motion to approve those lights on Griffin Drive.
We have a motion to approve the lights on Griffin Drive. Do I have a second?
I'll second, but I've got a question.
Can you review it
I'd like to
for
have
those
her-
of us who don't have much of a memory anymore? Is it gonna cost us $81,000 or what?
You've got a good memory. Exactly. But I think the motion should also add that before we immediately do that, we need to first authorize Bentley to start the permitting process, because Rod Senior was correct. This is Lee County's.
It's going to be
now.
Lee County shortly, yes.
So we need to go to Lee County, and I've already talked to Lee County, and I don't think there's any issues. But to follow up on what Rod said and regurgitate out there, I totally agree with him. This should not be us having to do this. But I've talked to Lee County, and you know what's going to freeze over, according to them, before those lights go in? They are not going to do it. They have
It's
far,
not on any plan, it's
no
not-
plan, no nothing. They're
But we
just
have to
not.
get their approval to do it, do we not?
Yes, we do, and they have no problem, because keep in mind, our contract is for lighting and signage, that's all our responsibility, and that's the position they're taking. You want lights, you put the lights in. And we have a proposal now to put in 9 lights that will be exactly like the ones we have, and we change the other 26 all to LED, which is a cost savings. So based on that, if
All
we just.
within that 80?
All on that 82,000, yeah. So on that, I would second the motion if she will also add authorizing him, because I think we want the permitting first. I don't want to get the cart too
Would
far
the
ahead of the
Would
horse.
the maker of the motion agree to that?
Yes.
I'll
We
second.
have a motion and a second. Any further conversation on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0.
Yeah, right, him to read this, which is consistent.
Authorize execution of documents to outsource payroll. That's
I
April.
understand.
Real quick,
Yeah, please.
this is a housekeeping item. Stephen and I have been working on this outsourcing payroll. Its cost should be no more than $75. I think it's actually cheaper. I just want to work with the vendor paychecks and make sure that we've got all of the right programming in place. Because we're a government, they offer a deep discount to us. But it's going to provide several things for the employees, a portal so they can see their payroll. It's going to include the paid leave bank time tracking. Outsourcing payroll was something that we talked about during the ST contract negotiation, and reorganizing. So this is just a housekeeping item in order to authorize me to execute the documents. I reached out to Stephen because one of the documents I was concerned about, there's a power of attorney in there. And I'm like, hey, where's the authority with this? And so we wanted to make sure that we escalated it to the board, and I got authorization to execute
You want a motion
these
for
documents.
approval?
Yes, please.
May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve, but I've got a question or two.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Uh, The $75 per payroll seems to me like a very little amount.
It is.
So the question is, why have we waited this long to be doing this? Why didn't we do it this
Do you
way in the
really wanna
first
go
place?
into that?
No, I don't want to go
and
there.
we've had a management company, and that's a service that they provide and bundle in their contract. One of the things that we stepped back and looked at when we got away from the management company, and based on some discussions about wanting to go out to bid, we know that that's coming, that we eventually want to take the services that ST is providing and eventually create an RFP and go out to bid. And so this is just one way of isolating our payroll. There won't be any transition with that, regardless who's doing the rest of our books.
And they
You know,
have all
payroll
the
stays
insurances
static.
and the bonds and
Yeah.
everything that have to be to do this.
Paychex and ADP are the two largest companies that
I
I
know
can really
ADP
see.
real
The difference being that ADP kind of catered to the big
companies.
businesses, like ST. ST has ADP. Paychex kind of caters to the smaller guys. And so I
So
just
you're-
thought that
you're-
it would be a better fit.
And-
All of the legal requirements to cover us, that they're doing this kind of work and
Yep.
what do you
That's a-
call it?
Yep.
Having access
And
to.
ST has other clients that have outsourced payroll, so we have to work on some logistics reporting and stuff, but
I'll
I'm
make
going to
the
work with
motion
them
then.
closely to
Yeah,
make sure
and
they
it's-
get
Yeah,
what they
Paychex
need.
is a large corporation, started in western New York,
Yeah.
and it's a, yeah.
So normally, with Paycheck and ADP, I'm more familiar with ADP than I am Paycheck, but they also offer HR services and.
That's exactly what I was
So-
looking at capitalizing
Okay,
on.
so you've evaluated their additional products and services.
Right,
and
and that
you feel
doesn't, that's
still-
not included in the
I
$75.
know, I know,
Nice
but
try.
it's- No, but what I'm saying is you've evaluated both. And
Right.
you feel like even, like
There's no-
Paychex
there's an
aligns
opportunity.
better with with what our needs are. than
Because of
ADP.
our future needs and wanting to develop our HR function, I think the organization that caters to smaller businesses is going to be a much better fit for us.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
Good question.
you've evaluated
Yes.
both sides.
There's an opportunity.
Yes.
Kathy has a question.
Okay, you only looked at two. There's no others in the state?
This is our payroll, and no, I did not look at any other
They're
than,
they're the
other
two
than the
best
two,
in
the
class.
two
Paycheck
best
maybe
ones
for you.
that I
But
know.
I'm just saying there are others that could have been looked at. I looked them up, South Florida payrolls, I have a bunch. Payroll Master Service, Absolute Payroll, there's a couple more.
Yeah, I went with what's known.
Tried and
Right,
true.
but I, as a government service, we need to look at others besides just two, so we have something else to examine.
Well, and definitely with those services, I mean, we can, I
Paychecks
mean,
used to be our
this is
401k
what I'm
service.
recommending as far as just staying with the mainstream and not go too far off the reservation. I mean, definitely as we proceed, you know, and get set up with them,
I have a
to
question
keep a
or
check
two,
on
if I
that.
may. Are all of our employees on direct deposit?
I believe yes.
Because some of the new firms will require direct deposit. If you haven't looked into that, I suggest you do. And secondly, the $75, does that include transmittal of funds to federal, state,
Yep.
governments?
And all
does
of,
it-
all the related reporting.
And all related reporting and the production of W-2s at the end of the year?
Yep, and we'll have an employee portal. You'll be able to go back and print out your W-2 again. You'll be able to see if you need to go out and print a series of pay stubs
Mobile.
off. It's
Don't
very,
they have-
very
and
mobile.
doesn't Paychex also have a fully mobile capable apps for both employees and employer?
I believe so.
I think it's pretty standard.
That's a heck of a price. That's just unbelievable.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
3-1. Motion's carried. Consider changing pool hours. Is that, Chris, is that you?
That's me.
Oh, that's you. Okay.
Yeah, they do an HR.
I was trying to give you a chance to sit there for us.
Okay, so one of the reasons, we have 3 sets of times for the pool. We have the daylight savings times, standard times, and then we have these 3 months that we extend the pool hours an extra hour between 7 and 8. We struggle with scheduling because there's not a lot of redundancy built in on the schedule with the part-time staff up there at the school because it is open 7 days a week. Long hours. I think staff gets there at 6:30 and sometimes doesn't leave until 8 o'clock during the summer. And then they have been, their responsibilities increased with trying to secure the soccer facility. So they leave the pool facility when they're done there, and they go over to the soccer facility, and they're to make sure that our restrooms are locked up. They do an inspection to make sure that that our restrooms haven't been trashed, and then lock the gates if they can, if there's nobody on the field. And we will work on a new procedure for that. So what happens is part-time employees need to work 30 hours or less. And so when they have a vacancy, we've been tracking time for quite some time, and they're exceeding that. And so during the summer, there's some staff that takes off some time, and that has been granted historically, and that has been discussed recently with management and different ways that we can manage that. But one of the ideas was to just close the pool between 7 and 8, and that would give us some more time. And we looked at, I had Holly keeps track of all of her numbers, all of her attendance, the different times at the pool. And I believe, because one of the questions was, well, how many people is this going to affect if we close the pool? So she did it for 2 years, these 3 months, and it averages from, it's like the most people that it would impact is, it looks like to be about 6 in 2016, 7. So on average, with all of this data, I think it was like 2 to 6 people during that hour of keeping staff up there, and then still after 8 o'clock, they don't have to go to the soccer complex when it's closed, but I don't think that the soccer complex will be closed for 3 months.
So this is 90 days for 1 hour, and how many people? 2?
6.
How many people, no, how many people work?
Oh,
One.
One. So 90 times one person, 1 hour at $13 an hour is $1,170.
plus fringe benefits.
Well,
Okay,
plus,
so in
plus
15,
the issue of the,
20%. I guess my deal is that a lot of people that work, could be one of the times that they would want to have access. for-
6 people.
Yeah.
It doesn't make.
Well, that's 6 years, six people 2 years ago. I don't know what it is now, but my point is, 1,170 plus fringe benefits, throw in 20%, you're at $1,400. I don't know if it's worth it.
So,
Now,
Why
we had
would- why
three,
would it not be worth
if
it?
we had 3 staff people up there,
I don't even know why we have staff up there anyway, to be honest.
well, somebody has to close it.
Yeah, but
Somebody has
that's-
to close it at 8 o'clock, so I understand that. I don't know what repercussions we're gonna get back, but we're talking about an awful small amount for what could upset quite a few people.
Right, and I never want to impact the residents without coming to the board with that discussion.
Oh,
No, why don't you go first?
I have a couple of things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, is there any reason that we couldn't get a substitute?
That is one of the things that we're looking at, is additional staffing.
Right, for substitute. Also, if you wanted to close the pool, why couldn't you, make it from 8 in the morning instead of 7 in the morning? Because I really do feel that you're taking away from the residents, especially those who work, swimming at night is the best time to swim.
Well, one of the reasons why we looked at
people
the
swim in the
afternoon
morning,
hours is because for a lot of these days, the pool's automatically closed when it starts lightning.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The-
Um,
Now, I have one more thing, and it says, the full-time staff has acquired more administrative duties. Now that we've hired, I believe his name is Michael, couldn't he take some of those administrative duties? And that would give that full-time staff more time there, so that way your part-timers could be working at different.
Right, I definitely think that we can look at alternative ideas, additional staffing, renegotiating duties and responsibilities. It was
Doesn't
ju- it
sound
was-
like you have a unanimous board that wants to change the time. Why don't you think about some other
We're about
alternatives and come back to us?
All right, we'll leave the time as is.
And I, just
Nothing.
real quick, one, I mean, I lifeguard, ever since I was in high school at pools. I'm sure we could look at alternatives, for the peak times, which is during the summer, which is when, we could probably find, some additional assistance. Two, I want us to go back and look why we're having full-time individuals at a pool, that the volume just does not make sense to have someone sit at that pool all day long when I bet you we don't have 50 people there a day on average. And I love that we're giving them additional administrative responsibilities, then put them in more an administrative role, and have them go and maybe check on the pool or be there during certain peak hours. Having someone sit full-time at that pool, I think is a huge waste of time. And I think the most important question we should ask is, why is the volume at that pool so low? When we're in Florida, it's because one, there's nothing to it. It's a lap pool. So that's something we also need to look at as improving. And not to mention, most people have pools in their backyard, which is fine, but,
And that was
we're
just during that hour.
Yeah,
Isn't there just one person at the pool all day?
but I
Just
looked at the
one?
numbers.
There's
There-
just one staff person there, that's no more, is it?
Well, there's two shared between a shift, and there's just a very short time in the middle of the day that they overlap.
But we have the numbers, because I've seen Holly's numbers. I think they keep track of how
Mhm.
many pool goers are there every day.
Yep.
And the numbers are abysmal. I mean,
They're very
Yeah.
small, but you're not recommending that we have nobody in a pool.
I recommend, well, do you have a lifeguard on duty at your pool?
We don't have a pool. At the country club?
Country club. Yeah.
Heavens, no.
Yeah, and we
Swim
don't
at
have
your
one-
own
we don't have
risk.
one in Stony Brook
Swim at
either.
your own risk.
So, I mean, again.
But you
there's
gotta
a
have
little
somebody to
more-
clean though.
No, that's fine.
We don't have a
I'm saying it's
lifeguard
different,
either.
though.
You
It's
gotta have
different.
somebody to call 111 if you have an accident.
That's
Over
what-
the
that's
past
swim at your
20
own
out of
risk.
that
What?
past 20,
That's
50
part of
years,
swim at your own
How many
risk.
times have we done that?
One since I've been here.
So, I'm not saying we remove, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that I don't know if it's the best use of time for the individuals that we have serving there. I think
Okay,
there might
you're
be
gonna
some other
think
things.
about some other stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
very
Right,
good.
thank you.
What's tobacco about?
Hold on, let me spit.
We're all gonna spit or instead of smoking, is that it?
I'm gonna hurry up because I know Mr. guy's Lexus is starting to turn into a pumpkin.
That's good.
Let's just ask the board for some direction, because like other government properties that are all non-smoking, we're the only ones that let people come in here, employees and otherwise, and smoke.
On
And-
property, you mean?
And that includes the pool. You know, do you let your employees or people who come to the pool smoke? And I just wanted a little direction, because I'd like to have a no smoking policy for this property. And I told the employees, if you wanna smoke, it can be like the teachers, go over there in the parking lot and go off the property.
Kathy?
Okay, I didn't, you know, I always look for 366.202, Florida statute. Okay, generally prohibits smoking in an enclosed indoors, however, in the workplace. However, it does not cover outdoor policy, and there should be limited smoking in outdoor policy in certain areas. So my suggestion is to designate an area where, I don't know how many people smoke, I know there's lots of them. because-
Picnic table across the street.
Or at
Wherever
least in
it
the back
is,
of the building.
somewhere it should be a designated, smoking area outside. And I did, when I came by today with Freddie, I saw the little smoking thing. So that could be moved somewhere away from the building, somewhere
Give it,
in the corner.
give them 3 weeks and say, figure out a place to smoke outside, no more in here and no more in the vehicles.
I'll say it's hard to enforce them on them. I look at it too, because I see some employees, and every hour they're out there smoking a cigarette, and I go, 10 minutes an hour, 8 hours a day, 80 minutes. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I'm just, yeah.
Yeah, it's your job to make it work.
Yeah, I don't think you need our approval to go
No.
do that type of
Yeah,
stuff,
I
just
don't-
do the
no,
job.
I agree.
Okay,
That's good.
seven walk-on items. Who's got a walk-on items? We already walked on Phil. Are there any more walk-on items? Supervisor comments. Ed?
Yeah, a couple. I would like to, and you kind of led into it a while ago, the getting with Chris and starting the process on the the billing, and all of that. And we're working on some numbers for flows, a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be tied together and get that started. But we got another issue that, in my opinion, as a result of this bond validation, that showed a weakness. 1986, we were given a methodology for assessments here in Gateway, and we haven't touched it for 14, 17, 31 years. It's time to visit our assessment methodology, and my recommendation would be that we would retain Russ Wire, very good guy that
He
did
was
our
the guy
work,
that was here.
and get started on the procedure of amending and coming back with a proposal for changes to our methodology. And this is one of the main reasons why I'm doing it. As a result of the letter that went out, I mean, it is the talk of at least Gateway Greens. And whenever people see something like this, they usually get their pencil and their calculator. These ponds to the Gateway Golf and Country Club is $1 million. And when I start looking around and talking to Russ and talking to Chuck Adams that used to be here years ago, that's now Rathel Hunt,
Yep.
and checking other CDs, come to find out that we are one, if not the only, that charges country clubs and a tax assessment. The others don't do it. They don't do it.
Does that make it right?
I think it makes it right from the sense of fair and equitable. I think we need to revisit it. Now, Russ and I have some differences of opinion, but I'd still say he's a good guy, he knows what he's doing.
Is that?
It needs
is
to be
this
ratio-
something we really need to tackle now with
Yeah.
everything else we got going?
Yes, we really do, because we got it, it's a timing issue with our budget coming up, to be able to, Russ can do this in 90 days. He can have this thing put together in 90 days, and it's really simple. It's essentially taking what we have right now, a stormwater based system, and leaving it with our stormwater, only tweaking it. As we found out, it needs to be tweaked because of some of the amendments and other stuff that Tony keeps finding in his archives. But we have other things like roads, landscaping, signage, parks and recreation that have nothing to do with stormwater. They need a different scenario. Let's let the pros come in and tell us, but I don't want to make a motion tonight to immediately retain him. I'd like to have him come back to us with a proposal of what he would recommend that we do and tie it in with the billing.
Tony,
Just one comment, and we've talked briefly about it. I would suggest, I think it's a good idea, but I would suggest that retention be in the next budget, and the work
Yeah.
not begin until after you adopt this year, the
It-
next year's
it-
budget.
it may
Only
ha-
because
it
it'd be
may
for-
have to.
Because it would be for the assessments.
sure.
It may
For the
have to.
following
The
year.
the timing to do this is gonna take some time.
Yeah.
So anyway,
But I
that's,
think it is a good idea based upon passage of time as well as other aspects. And Russ is good to work with.
Are you finished?
one other item just for the board. I thought we'd have a repercussion from it tonight, but evidently the letter, did you sign it? Hampton?
Oh, no, I wanted to talk to you about that, but
It hasn't gone out yet?
no.
That's why there wasn't a repercussion. I drafted a letter, Tony has seen it, I believe everybody has seen it, a letter going to Lennar, putting them on notice that Hampton Park, I think I came up with 4 issues, is not acceptable, and it really won't be acceptable if they continue doing what they're doing. We got some real significant problems there, and the last thing I want to do is add 14 more ponds to 64. And these 14 that would come in would go to phase 1.
You gotta put them on notice.
I know we do.
Yeah, and follow up what Chris said, and I don't know if you had an opportunity to mention to Mr. Tinkle, a little variation on the letter that we talked about, so.
Well,
I think it needs to go out, but I think there's an additional, like I said, another conversation to have briefly.
well, there was something else that happened too. I just found out, talking to Elle. They have gone through, as I understand it, their 5-year mitigation plan on the wetlands.
The monitoring?
Yeah. Why they're not in here trying to get those over to us is beyond me, but and what I know about wetlands wouldn't fill a thimble, but I know a weed when I see one, and those 7 wetlands out there are full of weeds. My thing is that we need to also get our expert out and get that assessed to be able to tell them, the letter that I've drafted for Chris to send does not include the wetlands. And in fact, we simply indicate that we don't have enough knowledge on it. But we need to find out, because one of these days, these guys are going to be coming in here. 2 weeks ago, when we had that meeting, they made it clear they want to turn this stuff over. Well, we're not taking no more things, that junk is exactly right of what we've got. And along that line, Chris, were you going to bring up, or do you want me to bring up the approval, or do you even need an authorization to retain the surveyor to go out and do the surveys? You're good.
In fact, that's the thing where Chris
Okay.
mentioned it, because I thought it was a good idea.
That's all I have, Bill.
I just got a couple quick things. So, in preparation for the town hall around the assessment discussion, I met with Diana briefly, and we need some type of visual. It's probably a 2-page document. It's just a visual that we can hand out that's easy to understand, that outlines what are we really asking for. It's the assessment that.
A chart.
Yeah, excellent idea, and Russ and I have talked about that. I don't know if he talked with you about that at some of our conference calls, about having a handout, simple that anybody can understand. And again, when I was a prosecutor, one of the best lessons I ever had was from a Milwaukee County prosecutor that says, whenever you have a jury trial, address the jury, present your case to the jury as if they are 7th graders without insulting their intelligence.
Well,
And, and it's not insulting anybody's intelligence, but it's to make it understandable.
well, maybe that's fitting, because I was going to volunteer to put the document together and it just very
We can
easily-
put you together with Russ, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think
Just a quick, because I went over something with her, and she said, this is really something that's easy to
The
understand.
letter that's going out that I drafted that he tried to legalese
I did a little bit.
has the document, or the stuff
Well,
in there that you
let's
can make a
whatever,
chart.
let's just throw some things
I
around
agree,
and see
it
what
needs
we
to be
like
done,
best, but
because when
it
people
has to be
see
something
what
very
this
easy.
dollar value is, they'll understand why we're doing it.
I think
And
if
what
it's,
we're asking for right now versus what we may ask.
what I would suggest is if you can create that, send it to me, and I'll send it to Russ and copy you an email, so then you and he can talk about those kind of
You
graphics.
do bring a question. How is that deal going to be handled? What's the logistics? How's this gonna work?
Who's facilitating, who's
Who's,
moderating?
who's moderating and,
Well, it's not really a town hall, it's actually a public hearing.
Oh,
okay,
And-
so we're
and-
not going to have a presentation?
Yeah, well, I envision a presentation by the engineer, by Russ, and by myself to make the presentation. I will keep it nice. How's that?
So,
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll work with Chris
I
and
don't,
April
I don't
on that,
worry
too.
about nice, it's your legalese
No,
that's
no,
got everybody
I'll try
confused.
to be less
Okay. So
technical.
So two last things really quick.
And Russ is good about explaining things
No,
too.
I know Russ is, yeah.
So Chris, up at the pool, I guess those new tanks that are out
Back in
there are
any
part
time,
of the
wasn't it?
natural gas.
I understand.
Old tanks, they're still there, they
Yeah.
took the fence down around them.
I
Yeah,
understand.
so they're gonna be
They don't get it.
removed.
And as a matter of fact, they had some, excuse, I guess Holly said that I got on the phone today and talked to the manager. and
Oh,
said
no,
he
that's
called me
nasty
back
language,
tomorrow
what
with
we
a
said.
schedule.
Okay, so those tanks will be gone and it'll be nice and pretty again. Okay, because honestly, I didn't even realize.
The legislature does it to cover
Those are
these.
valuable, don't take
Cover
them.
their ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Because I asked
and the
them.
last thing, Chris, congratulations on having a full senior team. So the vision that we have is at least in place at the top. So now it's time to move on to the next,
Yeah, it's-
next piece.
Yeah,
which is
sardines in a can is what it is.
Continued, driving productivity and efficiency, and it's a great job. You've got that senior leadership level in place. So now continue to move down to the next level.
I'm already giving it.
He's trying to get out of ponds is what he's wanting to do.
Kathy,
I've grown to
Yeah.
love ponds.
you have things?
I do. Okay. First of all, I want to thank you, Chris, for coming to our meeting in Stony Brook on Monday. He did have a bunch of flyers and stuff that satisfied many of the residents there. Okay? The second thing is for the attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, remember we're having that parking problem with the charter schools?
Yes.
Okay, well, now having that same kind of problem with Brown Academy. They're parking on Gateway and the landscaping, so what can we do? Because they're gonna start destroying that landscaping too. so-
What I would suggest, if the people are parking and destroying landscaping adversely
They're
affecting it.
pulling off the road,
pulling
just
off-
like the
I
charter
would
school
suggest
did.
a letter, to them saying, we have an issue where you're constantly doing this pulling off of the right of way,
I saw
parking,
that the
ruining the
other day.
landscaping. And then when Lee County finally owns the roads, then they will probably have traffic enforcement in regards to that.
I'm just concerned that we have
I
to
think
keep-
it's a, I think
I
it's a good
saw him
point.
doing it the other day.
And I guarantee if Chris or April pick up the phone and call Franny, the
Will it
owner,
work?
and just say, hey,
Oh.
she'll be more than happy to communicate something out.
He just sold to somebody, didn't it?
Yeah, but it hasn't fully executed yet, but.
So a two-step
They're very
process is a good
receptive.
idea.
A phone call would be more than enough, I would imagine, for her to get something out.
What else you got, Kathy?
Okay. When I came on the board, I asked Ms. White about staff meetings, and then I asked you about staff meetings. Has there been any staff meetings since December through May?
Not at my level.
Oh.
April could have them, I was really waiting till Mike got here and then pulled the team together, because April and I talk, every day.
Yeah.
And Kenny, but with Mike here and then budget coming up, we'll have meetings probably every other week.
Because I was thinking that, I've always been in places where we had staff meetings, well, in my case, twice a month, so, with everybody. So I would, think that that would be an important thing, and I would like to be there just to listen. Okay, thank you. And the third thing I have is I decided to go back on the internet. Okay? And I looked for all possible grants for the ponds. So I'm just gonna give you these don't have the grants, they have lists of grants. There was applications, I did not print the applications.
Yeah.
All right, so this is just because I think that we need to investigate grants, there are, because for the ponds, and I think the money is
Can you,
getting.
can you
into-
send a copy of this to Danny and to Tetra Tech, because I think they've done a lot of research around grants.
Well, you could send it.
And I'll respond to the next meeting.
I just, these are just quickly, I'm not even sure if it's in the proper places. I just, try to figure out some things.
If we were in Lehigh, we might
Thank
be
you
able to
very
get
much.
it.
Appreciate that. Do we have anything else for tonight?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Get that
You want
Lexus
one?
going.
Do you want one for Dana?
It's October is when they submitted the.
Get her started.
Compliance, let me just see.
Kathy doesn't
This
want
is
to
Hampton
sign
Parks
that.
ERP, this might be the monitor.
Adjustments are made.
There's,
You know
yeah,
that?
there's-
Oh, they had a deficiency response, Ed.